Welcome to this morning's Q&A. So it's just me and Helen this morning, so we'll have a good conversation about something we chatted briefly about during the week. So the Q&A, as always, is a place where we can kind of talk about things a little bit more than you can in a class where you kind of do more than talk. But here you get a chance to maybe talk a bit more than you do, which is useful from time to time. And it's a chance for people to ask any questions they've got, maybe on the stuff we've done in the week, or things they want to ask a question about to basically improve all of our skill, application of Systema, capability, and to make our practice more relevant and enhance it. So we'll jump into it, and yeah, it's a bit of a moving feast, and we've talked this week, and the questions evolved a bit. So it may not be clear right at the start, but as we go through it, I think we'll touch on all the major points that we want to do, and I think it's going to be quite relevant for lots of people. So, Helen.
Yeah, so I've thought a lot recently about strength and how I've lost some strength, and even doing assisted pillars and things, I am struggling with that. So I was wondering if I needed to bring in other strength practices, strength training, to develop smaller amounts of strength to then be able to get back into doing, and it always comes down to, I think, the press up. And how do I develop my strength to get back into being able to do a smooth, a few press ups, not just the one, because occasionally you can do that. The one is okay, and then trying to do 3, 4, 5, 6, or a whole class of them, I lose my strength really quickly. So I just, at my age and my time of life, I just sometimes wonder, is there another way to develop some extra strength training, or is Systema going to give me everything I need? And maybe I shouldn't be so hard on myself either, that, you know, my body's not as strong as it was a few years ago, and that will come back.
Yeah. So, like I said, really relevant and a really good question. And, you know, like lots of people, when you hit your 30s, and, you know, no. So, the first question is, what is strong enough? So, you know, I think lots of strength goals, categories can be quite arbitrary. You know, people want to be able to curl X amount, or deadlift curl amount, or lift X amount. And that's quite unrelated to their everyday life. You know, so it's more it's good to have a goal, a challenge, a target, if you like, but it's even better to have a goal or challenge or target that's relevant to your life, to kind of how your life pans out. So, I mean, there's different reasons people use weights for image. You know, they want to build muscle, and that generally goes along with taking stuff, especially more and more these days. And I know that's not the reason that you want to do it. The other reason people use weights is, you know, if you think, when I was in the army as a soldier, they never got you to use weights. The only weight you did was what you carried on your back, that functionally you had to use to carry your kit and your stuff from A to B. So there was no weight training to help you to be able to carry that weight. You just got used to carrying more weight. And, you know, you were doing it a lot, so you either did it or you didn't. And there was someone quite encouraging there to push you to be able to do it. The other reason you might use weight is if you're an athlete and you need to be able to get strength for performance over and above your body weight for an athletic capacity or capability. So maybe their body weight isn't enough. You know, people that can do much more than me, like 30 pull-ups, they might put weight belts on to challenge themselves more, you know, and if you're a climber or someone like that, then there's an argument that might be beneficial. But even that, you know, there's an argument to say just climb longer or climb slightly harder routes or whatever, you know. So I think, I don't know, I haven't looked into it deeply, but I'd say the jury's out on whether weight training is particularly advantageous for sports performance. You know, it depends on the sport, I guess. I know rugby players definitely do a lot of weight training to improve power, and power over and above their what their body weight is going to be able to give them. Same for some martial artists. So I think, and in some ways, weights can be more targeted than a movement, but not as. I don't think weights would ever be as functional as a movement. So, if your goal is to have a smooth push-up, the thing to do is lots more push-ups, and in lots of different ways. I don't know necessarily that weight training would give you much more advantage, apart from giving you something else to do. So giving you if just doing push-ups all day is boring, then doing some weights gives you another activity to do. And that's kind of my take on the, and also, so to make it less arbitrary and more functional. So, for me, Systema very much is about how does it play out in your everyday life? How strong do you need to be? So, do you need to be strong enough to do a push-up? I think it's good to be able to do it, but functionally, all you need is to be able to push yourself up off the ground. So your knees can be on the ground for that. And you want that movement to be smooth, easy, effortless, relaxed. So functionally, you're probably already there in terms of what you need for your life. There's another way to look at it. Do you want to need to be able to do a push-up? Now you may say, as an instructor, assistant instructor, you want to be able to demonstrate and show 2-3 push-ups, 4-5 push-ups, whatever. But there's a point at which that just crosses into a bit of ego, and is less about the functional reality of what do I need to be able to do to be healthy, to live a life where I can do everything I want to do. And that's the thing, if you're finding in daily life that your inability to do something kind of closes down some options in places of things you want to do, then that's something. Maybe, walking, getting down to the ground, getting up from the ground, that kind of thing. If those things start to be things you think twice about or as an effort, then I think that's something really worth nailing, because if it stops you getting down to the ground to play with grandchildren or makes you think twice, then that's something which hampers your quality of life. So I think there's that aspect to it. But your question what would be the best way to get to doing more push-ups, to be able to do more push-ups? You may need to depends how committed you are to the goal, really, and depends what that goal means to you, because you absolutely could put in place a plan that you stuck to it daily and it would get you to that state, but it takes quite a lot of effort to move from where you are to a new place, especially in terms of strength. Some strength you can get quite quickly, but I know, like, if I wanted to get to a stage where I could do 30 pull-ups, that would be a serious endeavor, that I'd have to dedicate time and discipline and effort to, over and above what I can do at the moment, and risk of injury, overuse injury or strain injury. And does that goal mean enough to me to want to push through that? I mean, I used the example the other day where I'd got a bar that overhangs a bit to be able to do a muscle up, which is where you go from a dead hang into where you don't just do a pull up, but you push down and you're up to waist on the bar, and I developed some strains in my stomach from doing it, and I looked at it and I thought, why do I want to do it? And in some ways it was good, because it was a challenge for me and it's physical, and I like the idea of being able to do it. And then I realized I like the idea of being able to do it. In terms of the functional reality of needing that movement in my everyday life to make it better, there was no need at all. And then the risk to benefit ratio was just outweighed, really. So yeah, they're just a few initial thoughts. Where does that kind of land in?
I think the more I thought about it when you were talking, I was thinking, I need to carry things. Yeah, I want to be strong enough to carry the things that I need to carry in my daily life. I don't need to carry, like, say, heavy weights or anything. I want to make sure that I'm strong enough to go into my next part of my life, and that my bones are strong, because there's a problem for women that, you know, we're going to get weaker bones and they're going to thin. So am I doing all the right things to make sure that I'm hitting all those, you know, strengthening exercises for the whole body? So push-ups, I was just thinking, you do a push-up, does that mean you get stronger to lift something? Sorry if that's a really stupid question, but you push your body weight. But if you wanted to be able to lift heavier things, does that work the same areas?
Yeah. Well, you've got the lowering part of a push-up, which is the two parts of the movement. You've got the push, which isn't a lifting. Well, it's pushing something up or pushing something off. But the lifting something up is the lowering part. So that kind of uses those muscles. But again, you know, unless you're noticing a deterioration in your ability to carry things, then the fact that the key is keep doing it, you know, and keep carrying things. I mean, a good movement discipline should include all the kinds of things. So pushing, pulling, running, jumping, lifting, carrying, getting down, getting up, throwing, catching, you know, it should include all those things. And we don't often touch, or we don't always touch all those bases in Systema. But in terms of, you know, strong bones and being able to lift and carry, you know, moving your body weight through its range like we do in Systema, you know, that looks at the legs, looks at the front of your hinge, the back of your hinge, your hands, and then for sure the pull up or the hang will improve because your lifting and carrying often is down to your grip anyway. You know, will work all of that. So those 5 things combined, and especially in terms of keeping your bones and joints used to load. So it's not just that they get weaker, but they do less over time and through the range, and that they become more brittle. Whereas what we do, especially the slow work, really looks after the joints, the ligaments, the tendons. It keeps them elastic, keeps them moist, keeps them moving right the way through the range. You know, imagine a hinge that you only kind of do that bit for, and then as you start to take it down, it gets brittle and can kind of snap, or at least squeak a lot and not really want to go through that range. So you know, moving your body through that range with load, the load of your body weight, is one of the things that keeps your bone, and the falling, you know, the rolling, all of that is I think it's called Wolf's Law, but it's the robustness that your bones and joints get from actively being worked, used, and having load put through them. It really, not just so, like all of it, you can do it at a level that maintains, and you can do it at a level that improves.
I think it started with my hands, actually. I think the whole kind of I think I've mentioned it to you maybe a couple of years ago, actually, that like the grip on my hands was not very good. So that's probably, I should have really worked on that straight away. Because as soon as you lose the grip in your hands, like you say, it's harder to do a hang, it's harder to pick things up, it's harder to carry things, it's harder to do a press up. All of those things are actually becoming difficult. And I think it probably did start with the hands.
Yeah.
I was going to say something. Sorry, mind.
I mean, and while you're thinking, you know, the hang bar work is perfect because it, you know, it means you're used to carrying to holding with your grip your body weight, and you're never going to pick up much in excess of your body weight. So, you know, that's a really useful benchmark to have. If you can hang for 10 seconds even, because lots of people wouldn't even be able to support their body weight in a hang. Their hands would just slip straight off, or they'd pull or injure something. So, you know, having the ability, and that's just the same movement as when you lift something up. You know, you're checking all the same areas and joints, ligaments, tendons.
That's interesting because a couple of years ago the bar was where you could see it as you walked into the academy. So people were doing a hang before and after class, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
And then that, since stopping doing those, there's other things that we've stopped doing, I suppose, as well, which is the basic things like throwing and catching balls. You know, in the health classes where we used to do many more smaller movements, you know, catching, throwing,
Hmm.
I can't think of,
More balancing work, and
yeah, all of those things that probably I need to think about going back to, even if I do it in my own time, you know. And it's hard to motivate yourself, you know, at home to say, I'm going to do half an hour of this. I need
yeah,
to do it in class. I need somebody there to say, this is what you're doing next. And this, you know, I think I find it difficult to motivate myself. But even if when I'm there 5 minutes early, maybe those are the things that I should start to add as well.
or I think, you know, we need to start doing more of those things in class too, you know, just start adding them in more.
Because a lot of stuff we're doing are big movements, aren't they? They're big. We're
Yeah.
using big muscles. We're doing big movements. But for me, maybe at the moment, I need to start looking at those little things again. Yeah, because it feels like I just need to move everything a little bit more, you know. And I'm those small kind of. I think that's, as you get older, those are the little bits that start to niggle, aren't they? You know, your feet ache a little bit, or your hands are a bit, you know, sore or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, yeah, so that's probably what I need to focus on as a personal thing.
Yeah. And then I think the other slight thing that we touched on beforehand, which is, you know, if you come into class and you've got a slight niggle, a slight injury, your energy's low, or whatever. I think Systema is a lovely place for that, because it, you know, on the one hand, you've got the spirit thing about, you know, having the will to move through things, but also the sensitivity to understand, you know, at what cost or what benefit. So, you know, you don't want to be completely wiped out or feeling worse at the end of a class than you do at the start. And that's a continual tug of war anyway, and that's a good, useful tug of war to make sure you're not falling too far one way, or, you know, pushing yourself too far the other way, and you're always carrying injuries, you don't feel great at the end of a class, that kind of thing. So it kind of, that tussle between the two, just like having a, you know, an opposition party in a parliament, is a great thing, because it keeps you somewhere in the right place in the middle. You know, you can't fall too far to one side if we're talking about Systema again, and or training again, and you become too lax, and, you know, you give yourself too much of a break, and then you suddenly start really falling behind. But equally, it kind of stops you, because we've got to focus on it. It stops you being too obsessive and maniacal in your training, and you're pushing yourself too far, and you're not enjoying it, and you're injured. And so that tussle kind of keeps you somewhere in the middle, and also having people around. So if you're in a gym where it's all about image and all about ego and all about competition and fighting, or, you know, being at the next stage, then there's probably an imbalance. And equally, if you're in a place where, you know, they chat for 45 minutes and then maybe just walk around for 5 minutes, and kind of you're too far the other way. And I like to try and hope that we try and find somewhere kind of in the middle that's open and accessible to whoever wants to come and train. And, you know, but to have that, it's got to be individual, and people have got to know they've got the, and no one thinks badly of it, you know, because in their own individual bodies, and it's not about everyone being able to do the same thing. It's about you getting the most out of it for yourself, and pushing and developing your skills. A big one of which is sensitivity and awareness. So yeah,
I think you're right with what you said earlier about, you know, why are you there? What are you training for? You
yeah,
know, and sometimes I'm there going, what am I doing? What on earth is this all about? And that, I mean, that brings you joy often when you do, you know, you
yeah,
get to the stage and go, what am I doing? And that's great, because that goes into play and fun and whatever. But
yeah,
yeah, I think I probably need to know why I'm there more for a personal, you know,
yeah,
what draws me to go there Monday night, what draws me to go there Tuesday night, and what is it that I want to walk away feeling. And I always feel better no matter what. I don't think I've
yeah.
ever walked away and gone, oh, I feel dreadful. So there's always something you can do, and there's always something you can get out of it.
Sure. Yeah,
But I think, as you've seen in the last, you know, year or so, I just need to work on my little things. You know, sometimes I just need to kind of go, and
Sure.
work for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever that is. And hopefully that is okay. Everybody seems to be fine with that.
Yeah.
When you need to step out and what have you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, to not overthink it too,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and also like, because the system approach to the contact work, the combat work is to understand yourself in a bit of struggle, or in connection with other people, which are often the most stressful things in the world, and it's to give yourself that, like, reality check of, it's more than just being able to breathe and relax, and yeah, that feels great. It's okay, how do I feel now? And but finding the right balance of that,
Mm,
because if it challenges you too much, it's not fun.
mm,
um, and you don't want to go, and you don't, but if you stay on the right side of the line, that you touch your edge, and okay, there's my edge, and
mm.
um yeah.
I would never have believed in a million years, like even 8 or 9 years ago, that I would be doing what I'm doing now,
Hmm.
and that I would still be doing it. When I look at what other people are doing at maybe my age, or what they're going through at my age group, they wouldn't dream of it. And people find it hilarious when I tell them, if they're not involved in it, what we're doing. But the benefits are so huge, and that's why I want to make sure that I can keep continuing, and I
Yeah.
can keep doing this until I'm in my 80s, or however old the oldest
Yeah.
person is. And that's what I need to kind of find, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and like the stuff we do in training, although you've got to know why you're doing it, and you got to see where it comes into your life, and it should be just a bit more than you need to enjoy life, so that it just checks and pushes you, and then you play it out in life. And blimey, life's a struggle. And I think Systema is a great, what's the word, it is a great representation of that. And the same skills you use to manage the struggle in Systema are the same skills used to manage the struggle in life, whether that's people or pain, or mindset, and those sort of things. And you're right. The aim for me is to have a long, healthy, or a healthy, happy life, where I'm able to do all the things I want to do and enjoy life to the full. And I haven't found anything like Systema that allows me to do that mentally, physically, emotionally, with great people, with a great community, and that gives the most bang for the buck. You haven't got to go and do 5 different things to hit all those different parts of your life. Something for your brain, something for your focus, something for your cardiovascular fitness, something for your skill, kind of something for your balance, something else for it's kind of all there. And
Yeah, and that's exactly why I want to stick at it, because it is all there, and it's got me through some, struggles in the last few years as well. So I think I totally see the benefits. I
yeah.
just feel slightly different to how I did, and of course we're going to feel different because we're getting older. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just find a way to kind of keep working through it, but maybe making those small changes.
Yeah.
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 So thank you for that. Yeah, like I say, instead of maybe standing around chatting at the beginning, I need to start doing a few little extra things that suit me and my body, and that what I need at the moment.
Yeah, maybe it's interesting now, because after doing the functional assessment,
Mm.
like, people are coming and getting on the hang bar and starting to pull up at the start of class, which is great to see. So they're kind of knowing the areas they need to work on, and just, like I said, not in a fanatical way, but just, in a bit more of a productive way. And I think just touching on that once a month, I think, would be a good thing.
Yeah, because then you really are looking at yourself, aren't you? Because
Yeah.
normally we come in and we're just working on everything with everybody, maybe not taking too much notice of what we are feeling.
Yeah.
And then if you do lose a little bit of something, you're not aware. So that functional test did, highlight some stuff, good and bad, for everybody, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, some things I was really pleased with, and others I was like, gosh, I've let it slip somehow.
Yeah.
I think it's a good focus.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Helen. Cool. Okay. Well, we'll wrap it there. Have a lovely weekend.
And you, happy
And
birthday.
thank you.
Now everybody will know.
Well, everyone that watches this, all 5 of them. Great. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.